So in this video, we're going to talk about projectors, which is very near and dear to our hearts because we are also both projectors. So hopefully we can give you some personal life experience examples. But essentially as a projector, you're here for what you see and what you know, more so than what you're here to do. You're here to basically guide the energy of everybody around you. So 70% of the population is a generator or a manifesting generator. Essentially, they have access to that sacral energy. It's the second box up from the body graph, and we'll show you in the graphics. But essentially, because projectors don't have that defined, consistent sacral energy, it gives them the ability to really look into the energy of the other person and be able to guide that energy to give unique insights on how to make things more efficient.
Yes. So, as a projector, there are a wide variety of types of how this energy can manifest. You can have a lot of open centers with only 2 centers defined, like us, which you can see behind us what we look like. And also a couple other different varieties. We have the most different authority types and combinations. And what makes a projector most definitely a projector is the empty box, the second box in the center, that is white or undefined. And there is no direct channel of a motor to the throat. The throat can be defined, the G center, the emotional solar plexus, the root, the spleen, the ajna, and the head, all that can be defined, but as long as there's no direct motor of the 4 motors, which is the root, the sacral center,
The heart, and the emotional solar plexus center.
Yeah. As long as there's no channel to the throat, that makes you a projector. And that is different from a manifester, which is in another course. But for now, we are talking about you, my dear.
And it's also, I think it's really fascinating to learn about the history of how projectors came to be, because we're actually the newest type. And in 1781, that's when we as a humanity evolved from having 7 centers or chakras into having 9 centers or chakras. And the reason for that was because around 1781 is when humans first discovered the planet Uranus. And with this discovery, we shifted from being Saturnian beings with an average lifespan of about 29 years into being Uranian beings and having an average lifespan of 84 years. And with this expansion of our lifespan, it allowed for, first of all, new energy centers to open up, but it also allowed us to shift from a time when we were focused on basically just survival and tribal instincts and, basically just surviving and finding food and all that sort of stuff, into shifting into really pondering, what is my purpose in life? How do I find happiness? How do I find meaning? And because we have the time and the ability to ponder those things, we now have projectors which give us guidance on how to be more efficient with our time, effort, and energy, so that we have a lot of time to play and create art and do the things that really kind of light us up as a humanity.
Yes, and with the advent of the separation of the emotional solar plexus from the sacral center. Traditionally, the second chakra contains the emotions, and the solar plexus in human design is combining of the sacral center's emotions with a bit of confrontational energy from that is available with the solar plexus. So in human design, the solar plexus in and of itself was the center, well, one of the centers that split and separated into a whole new energy of awareness, of spirituality and heightened creativity. And outside of this survival instinct, it allowed for this emotional intelligence, because we're moving out of survival and dog eat dog kind of world and into a very spiritual, creative, using that emotional intelligence, which takes time to process because we have time. It's not so cut and dry with not having like food, water, and shelter.
Yeah.
We have all the basic necessities now, and now it's personal growth and self-awareness. So you watching this, you might be a emotionally defined projector, or you may not. And there are different elements to be aware of when you're interacting, because half the population is emotionally defined. So it's a good 50-50 chance that there are people in your family that are emotionally defined, and that is for another additional area. We're going to focus on all the different authorities, but for now we are focusing on strategy and utilizing the awareness of your type and what that means to be a projector and having receptive energy of the world. So I have come across several different types of projectors. It depends. There are a diverse energy configuration. So some projectors you might feel, like for me example, my energy definitely, because I have a defined root, it comes and goes, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes I have energy to do something, sometimes I don't. Definitely I have to take a lot of recharge and relaxation time in order to output a lot of energy. I don't do so well consistently in the gym. I can go to the gym, but I don't have the generator energy to really push myself. And I would be surprised if some projectors are in the gym often. And if you are, fantastic. Love to hear your story about what it's like to be you as a projector. I do know that there are some projectors that have their heart and ego defined, the ego will center defined, that they have the drive and the energy and the motivation to do a lot and keep up with the generator population. Usually as a projector, you will absorb information and take in a lot of energy. So you probably like to learn, you probably like to study information. You could be an audio listener, you could be a book reader, you could be taking in information that you've learned through other people. There are several ways, but you will notice that you absorb and retain the information, process it through your own definition, your undefined centers, through your own blueprint, and then able to turn it into your own words and share that information with others fairly easily.
When that information is something that is really fascinating and interesting to you. That is the caveat too, because every projector is going to have very specific things that really interest them, because one thing that a projector is here to do is basically hone a niche. And it's okay if that niche takes a long time to develop, or if that niche has lots of characteristics of lots of different things. But whatever it is that you're fascinated by as a projector, that is given to you for a reason. It's given to you as something to direct your attention, because that's supposed to be part of your purpose. And also understand too that just because projectors are a non-energy type, you can have lots of energy as a projector. And you just may find that, like Wynn said, your energy kind of like ebbs and flows or comes and goes. You may be a projector who, for your job, you spend a lot of time maybe like learning and writing and doing that sort of stuff. So it's a lot of work that is a lot more input into your system, so it's a lot more about gaining knowledge and wisdom, and therefore you have a lot more energy to do those more active things or to give to other people. But if you're in a profession maybe where it takes a lot of energy mentally, physically, and emotionally, then that is the kind of stuff that's going to drain you really, really fast. Like me, for example, I've always had a lot of energy as a projector. I'm really active and I love to hike and I love to do yoga, and like as a kid I was a runner. But I find, especially because I'm also a physical therapist, and when I work as a physical therapist a lot, because it is so people intensive, it can drain me really, really fast. It's funny because Ra Uru, who used to joke that projectors were only designed to work 3 hours a day. And I like to think of that as like, you're really only designed to do the outputting 3 hours a day. However, though, there's lots of different jobs in which you can spend a lot of your time like researching things and guiding people and being the boss with the open door policy, and people are kind of coming in and out and like coming to you for wisdom. And then like maybe only like 3 hours of that day are you truly like churning out the projects and churning out the the guidance and churning out the organization skills. So there's lots of room to play with your energy, and definitely it's never something where I would say you can only do your job this time, or you can only do these certain jobs. There's lots of room to play with exactly how your energy works in a career setting.
And you are ultimately your own authority to make the decision about what's right for you. When you definitely have felt like you've overpeopled yourself, then you might find work to be reading, putting in a lot more input, whatever that looks like for you. Could be just research. It could be absorbing whatever information from wherever sources is enjoyable and replenishing for you.
And actually, I know a lot of projectors who are teachers. I know your mom is a teacher.
Yes. Yep.
I have one of my best friends is a projector, and she's a teacher. And projectors make excellent teachers because they're very good at helping people and facilitating people to learn and to grow on their own, and like asking the right questions. And they're not the teachers who are like micromanaging and like over explaining things. They're like the teachers that have really perfected the ability to like give people the tools to learn things themselves, which is actually like how everybody is designed to learn, is like by getting in and doing it themselves.
Yeah, and as a projector, you have a very unique eye and perspective of the world and the people in it, and you have a specific skill and a niche, something that you specialize in, that you become an expert on. And it could be a variety of things. You might even, depending on how you're designed and laid out, you might try a bunch of different things in one lifetime and become little experts in all these little things, and then it incorporates into a whole new thing. You could be an expert in one area that has perfected this whole specific niche that could be that's whatever's appropriate for you.
I had a client once who was a college guidance counselor. And she spent the good first half of her life like experimenting with lots of different things. And she ended up using like little bits of all those experiences that she gained to be able to guide students to make decisions on like what majors they wanted to choose and what careers they wanted to go in, which I thought was so beautiful. So if you don't know what your specific niche is, don't worry. It's more about following your interests and your passions and the things that are really easy for you to learn, following those things, and the niche kind of reveals itself to you with time.
Yes. And also, I am going to give you all the permission to, once again, be patient with yourself. Some of us are simply late bloomers. I'm one of those. I'm gonna own it. And you know, also recognizing that we live in a time frame where you think that if you reach 30 and you haven't figured out what you're doing yet, why have I not figured it out yet? And it's like, we have a lifetime, and yes, our age expansion has evolved. I love that you brought out the whole Uranian, we live to be 84 now, or that's the average lifespan. I think that's fantastic to put that into perspective, because, you know, that means that 40 is actually the new 20, technically.
Well, actually, time and space doesn't really exist.
That's very true. Yeah, that's very true.
If you want to get really esoteric with that, I mean.
Well, it does. It's just that it's all relative.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it is highly likely, depending on where you're at in your life cycle, like however old you are, I've found that once you reach 30, and I had this from experience, I was able to intuit how my design works through trial and error, and I just naturally intuited how to operate. And now I've also had clients and have done readings for older people, and also have just looked at my own family and of that they've figured out how to intuit their design. So if you find this, that you're watching this video and you're in your mid to late 20s or even in your early 20s and you're wondering, oh my gosh, well, this information is going to be planting seeds in your awareness to help you navigate and have a little bit more of an ability to direct your life and have some more guidance, so you're not so much of running into trial and error or like making mistakes. Like, you're gonna actually get to have some of strategy how to best utilize your energy. For example, I find that I really need to, if I have a long day and I've been very people active, or I've put out a lot of output, that I need to come home and definitely just have some serious quiet me time. And just laying in bed, resting, whether it looks like I'm taking a bath or just reading a book or putting on a movie, or just, you know, just laying in bed and just soothing myself to discharge that energy so that I can fall asleep quicker. I've found myself that if I'm really active and go, even sometimes for me personally, I'm gonna talk from personal experience, but if I watch a movie that's extra stimulating or I'm really interested in it and it goes past to late at night, I'll have a harder time falling asleep. Because it's that energy I've absorbed so much. It's like I need to stop absorbing and really just find something that I can either put on an audiobook or something that I'm not being stimulated from the screen, or whatever works for you. It depends. Like you get to figure out what is your downtime permission. One of our friends, his mom was a projector, and the thing that she would do at the end of the day would just retreat to her room and just have her own quiet time. Yeah. And granted, this was before, I mean, she doesn't really know about human design, but she just naturally figured out what worked for her after a day of raising 3 children and going to work.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because we're all a little bit different in how we empty out. And for me, I definitely need to go on a lot of walks. And I think because I have such a defined root center, that's just how I ground with the earth, and it helps me dissipate all that energy that I've absorbed and basically give it back to the earth. But the other fascinating thing is that because as projectors, we don't have defined sacral energy that's consistent with all projectors, as we discussed at the beginning of the video, we sometimes don't have a sense of when enough is enough. And I used to be someone who was like an over-exerciser, and like, you know, I really used to take like fitness and certain things to the extreme, but since learning about being a projector, I've really given myself more permission to like listen to my body and listen to when I need rest. And within my experiment of the last year, I've noticed that I actually, I still exercise, but I exercise a lot less and I focus on resting a lot more. And I actually lost weight and like have found myself to be healthier just from, you know, just listening to my body a little bit better and understanding, because I don't always know when enough is enough, that I need to be extra cautious about blowing past the limit. And, kind of pivoting, since we're kind of talking about rest, with resting and especially with falling asleep, because we don't have that consistent sacral energy, we actually need a little bit of time to kind of unwind before bed. And I know you alluded to this too, but sometimes if we try to like really give ourselves too much stimulation before bed or try to work right up into going to bed, we won't find that our sleep is as restful.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I really need to discharge and stop and be able to turn off my brain in particular. Too much overstimulation, having late night conversations with people. But as I've gotten older, I definitely am noticing how to take a little bit more self-care and know when enough is enough. That I've definitely picked up on that. Like, okay, love y'all, I'm going to bed now, you know?
Yeah, because with time, and that's where the mind actually comes in handy, is like our minds recognize patterns, and over time you can start to see patterns of what works for you.
Yep.